To learn the good, the bad, and the reality of the nomadic lifestyle, click the subscribe button so you don't miss anything. Click the bell notification. So we're back at New Mexico, and we stayed here for a week on our way to Arizona. It's kind of a nice place. An established campground. It's got some bathrooms and trash. Internet's good. And you climb up here to this hilltop and you get this really nice view. A lot of people really admire the view. You can see for miles. It's really neat. I remember when I was in the Navy wanting to come out to the desert area, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, that area, and do some tent camping. My wife at the time and I bought all the camping gear, and we were preparing for the trip of a lifetime. For whatever reason, and I cannot remember the reason, we didn't get to go. But I have dreamt about coming out to this desert since I was, 19 years old? So almost 30 years I have dreamt about coming here. And, I had this imagination of what it would be like. And I don't even know how to describe what I felt like it would be. So 30 years later, and I finally get to come out here. And I was driving from Arizona to here, and I got to asking myself, was it like what I thought it would be like 30 years ago? And the answer is no. Maybe the problem is we live the nomadic lifestyle and not so much just go camping. I really want to try to drive home this thought process about the imagination and coming out here, standing on top of the van, giving that, pose that you see so many times in van groups. It's just not like that. And so when you're sitting on your couch and you're dreaming of the lifestyle, ask yourself, are you trying to generate what this is going to be like? Starting this nomadic lifestyle, one of the things I always wanted to do was camp or park next to the beach. But when you actually get out to the beach, there is very few places that you can actually do that. Now, I think we're going to be able to do that in Texas, but everywhere else we've been that had an ocean, there was no place to park. Most of the beachfront property is taken up by very high-class homes. And so the last thing they want to see is an old junky homemade camper. So the best you can do is go and walk on the beach. And don't get me wrong, I've got some beautiful footage of some beach walks that I've done. And I will never, ever forget that memory. And I'll go back as much as I can. I'll come back here as much as I can as a nomad. One of the things I really enjoyed was going to South Dakota. Now that's the interesting thing. South Dakota, the Badlands. Coming home from the Navy many times to visit family, we drove by the Badlands. And no offense to South Dakotans, but I always thought, man, what a state. I mean, you drive for hours and you don't see anything. And then you see Wall Drug. You see signs the entire time you're on Highway 90. Go to Wall Drug. Well, 4 miles from Wall Drug, south, is the Badlands. And I thought, man, why would I ever want to go there? So I had this unrealistic imagination of the desert, but I had this dread of the Badlands. But when I actually went to South Dakota, we got there at nighttime. And so I already had this yucky feeling about it. It was like, well, we'll just stay here until it's time to leave. And the next morning I got up and I looked out the window, and it was like a painting. It was the most beautiful thing I have in my memory right now of the nomadic life that we've had. The Badlands, in my mind, is better than what it was like at the Grand Canyon. I mean, the Grand Canyon, of course, you have it built up in your mind what it's going to be like. And it was great. It was pretty. It was beautiful. But I already had this expectation of that. The Badlands, I didn't have any expectation. So when we got to Coconino National Forest, it was the first real forest that we had been in since we went west. I mean, when I say forest, I mean like real trees, trees up in the sky that cover you with shade. And I noticed that Carolyn and I, even when it was cold, would sit out in our lawn chairs. And we did that every day. We were there for 2 weeks, and we would go outside for at least a little while. And we took lots of walks. we enjoyed the forest. Now, think about this. We're from Missouri, where there are lots of forests. And so we've spent most of our nomadic lifestyle in the forest. And it seems to me that we are most comfortable in the forest. But when we come to the desert, we really didn't do that much. Now, so when we were in Utah and we went to the desert, Carolyn, I think, took 2 walks with me. But most of my walks were just by myself doing videos. And then we went to the Red Cliffs in Utah. Now, I enjoyed the Red Cliffs. It was rock climbing, and I enjoyed rock climbing, but I can do that in Missouri too. There's lots of hills and things you can rock climb on. Again, I wasn't overly excited about any of it in comparison to the South Dakota's Badlands. So we get here, and the temperature's been pretty pleasant. We got down to 39 degrees, I think, the other day. And so we stayed in the camper most of the day. But I understood, okay, it's cold, so we're just going to stay inside, kind of bundle up. And we played on the internet. Nothing really exciting. Well, the next day we were here, it warmed up. I mean, it was like in the 60s. It was quite comfortable. And I noticed that we were staying inside. And I asked Carolyn, I said, boy, I mean, look at all this beauty. And here we are inside. And she says, well, you want to go for a walk? And I said, well, I guess we could, but not really. I'm kind of just enjoying myself sitting in the house. She says, well, I am too. So then you start to feel like it's an obligation, that you're a nomad, that you need to go out and explore everything. Your day as a nomad is just like a day in a stick and brick, except this is the backyard today, and maybe tomorrow you have a different backyard. Being a nomad is just life. The title of this is I Can't Get Carolyn Out of the Camper, because we're just content on the lifestyle. We've become accustomed to, okay, we're going to see some neat things as we go along. But in the end, I mean, it's not this overly exciting thing that we had anticipated. And the desert was definitely a disappointment in comparison to the imagination. You had this high expectation of things, and then the actual reality didn't even come close to the expectation. The Badlands, I had no expectation. Actually, I had poor expectations of them, and it turned out to be the best thing in the world. You need to be aware that you are going to blow things out of proportion in your imagination. Thanks for watching. Click like if you like the video, and happy travels.